to interact with Mr. Azad. Of course, Ms. Kavita, I knew her quite well because we have been working together over the last year and more than a year, because we have done a Dhyan review of our schools. And as mentioned, we also tried to put together the 7th KPA, 7th Key Performance Area, which is the Salesian Way, the Don Bosco Way. And we have worked together on quite a few areas. The one who is new to me is, of course, Mr. Azad. And I tried to initiate a discussion over the internet. And this is what Azad had to say. He says, unfortunately, my life is not so exciting. So I'm struggling to share experiences that would be relevant. That is, in all humility, he has said about himself. But essentially, I work currently with the Central Square Foundation, which is looking at systemic ways to improve the quality of education in the country. We believe that there are various structural changes needed in the system that can really help to improve the quality of education for the vast majority of children who are currently being failed by our system, since only 20% of children who enter kindergarten finish 12th grade. And quite some areas which he is working on, and I'm sure he will get enough time within that 7.5 minutes to say more about himself and his works, besides speaking on quality education. Ms. Kavita, as I mentioned, is also on our panel. She is the director of Adhyayan, and we found in her a person who has a very incisive mind, very critical, and very intelligent. And in a short span of time, she has influenced us also with the starting of DBIS, Don Bosco International School, and she is on our board, the management board. Okay. So we are proud to have Ms. Kavita Anand also with us. So with this little introduction, I now request the first speaker of the day, Mr. Azad, to kindly enlighten us. Thank you.
Morning. Thank you, Father Bernard, for that introduction. I didn't know emails are supposed to be private, but that's fine. It's a great honor to be here. I went to school in Delhi at a Patrician Brothers school, and after coming here today, I feel like I should have come to a Salesian school instead after seeing the wonderful infrastructure here. As Father Bernard said, I work at the Central Square Foundation, and we take a fairly big picture look at education in India, because we see some big systemic issues that face education in this country. I'm sure all of you who are work close to the children know firsthand what many of these issues are, we've been trying to say what does the evidence show about what the challenges are with education and what can we do as an institution to address these. So I'll speak today about 5 different areas, but just to give you a quick context of the way we work at Central Square Foundation. As a philanthropic fund, we both make grants to NGOs. We also work on policy issues because we feel like education policy in this country is often made in a very ad hoc way and is not necessarily addressing the important issues that need to be addressed. So we work, we learn from grants to NGOs whom we work very closely with to understand what the issues are, and then we work with the government on the other side to affect policy. And I think one of hopefully what the key message that I'd like to leave with you today is that what we find in this country is that there's very few examples of excellent education. So as you think of yourselves as excellent, as instances of excellent schools and delivering the high quality education that you do, are there ways in which you all, both as individual schools in your communities as well as the collective network of schools, the Salesian schools, can play a role in improving the overall education of this country. So, as Father Bernard shared from my email, when we look at education in this country, we're seeing that of 100 children who start in kindergarten, only 20 of them are finishing 12th standard. And certainly from my perspective, not having a 12th standard education in this country means that the opportunities that are available to you are very limited. And so we're just perpetuating this cycle of poverty and inequity that exists in this country unless we actually break this challenge of a poor education system and get many more kids educated. I had some slides, but I can do it without slides, or if, okay, I think they're there. But the slides are really just a guide to, I mean, they're not very exciting and no interesting pictures on them. So the 5 things I'll talk about quickly, and I know I only have probably about 5 minutes left, is, and this is just to give you an example of the way we think about the big picture. And then I think as Kavita speaks more, she'll be speaking much more about the micro level in terms of how this plays out at an individual school level. But if you zoom out to a big level, let me see here. Oops. Yeah, but it's, anyway. We'll just, sure. I just wanted to get to the early childhood. So the 5 things I'm going to talk about are early childhood education, getting motivated and trained teachers, high quality school leaders, measurement against goals, and linkage to the ecosystem. And these are 5 of the many areas that we work on where we feel like there's systemic change that's needed in this country. So if you look at, so let's just, I'll just run through these one by one. So early childhood education, even though India has the Integrated Child Development Scheme, which is actually the largest early childhood care system in the world, we find that there are still a majority of children in this country don't actually get a quality early childhood education. And we feel that that's really important because we know that, and I'm sure you all know as well as you see children coming into your schools, the difference between children who've had the opportunity to have some sort of early childhood care versus others who haven't. And when I say care, I'm actually specifically referring to education, because I think one of the challenges with the ICDS, the Integrated Child Development Scheme, is that it doesn't really have a strong education component. So even though children who may be in an Anganwadi or a Balwadi, they're getting cared for, they're not necessarily getting the early childhood skills that they need then to prepare them to go into kindergarten, to go into first grade and beyond. We know also that high quality early childhood education has a significant impact on low income children. International research, and unfortunately this hasn't been researched that deeply in India, but international research shows gaps of thousands of words and vocabulary in children who are coming into first grade without, so children who have had early childhood education come in with a significant advantage in terms of vocabulary. Within the Indian context, as you see, upper income children will have access to books at home, they'll have access to all sorts of material that they absorb, whereas low income children may not have that. So early childhood education has a significant role in bridging that gap even at first grade. And then whatever research we've seen shows that that gap only expands as you go beyond first grade. And I think the other systemic thing that we think about is this issue of good early childhood education versus what in quotes bad early childhood education, where if early childhood education is considered to be rote learning, like this is how you learn an alphabet, learn up your alphabets, without looking at things like gross motor skills, emotional skills. 2 minutes left? Okay, great. Then we need, so we need to look at things that at good early childhood education and promote that. I think in the second thing, with teachers, we find that while certainly with the 6-pay commission now, teachers are getting a reasonably adequate compensation, We find that in many schools in India where teachers are not being paid sixth pay commission, whether they're government teachers who are on contract or in private schools that are not paying sixth pay commission, we need to look at the issue of compensation for teachers. What is the best way to compensate them? We need to look at things like internal and external recognition, basically to make teaching an attractive profession in India again. Because what we're finding today is that not the best, our best and brightest are not necessarily going into teaching. Some may, but most aren't. There are big systemic gaps in the training of teachers. Many of you would have either done a B.Ed or are working with teachers who have B.Eds. We think that the B.Ed curriculum itself needs a lot more reform. It needs a lot more practical experience during teaching so that when teachers actually come into the classroom, it's not just theory that they know, but they also have the experience of having taught in a classroom. And one of the areas that we are working on quite a lot is how can you use technology to actually train vast numbers of teachers. So as you find quality teacher educators in the country, how do you magnify their impact by using video, by using online learning to spread that word around in a much more significant way. One of the areas that we've been working on, and we've been doing some work with Kavita on this, is the issue of school leadership. As many of you know, there is no qualification required in India to be a special qualification in India that's required to be a school leader. But the way we think about school leadership is that the school leader is not just an administrative leader, but is actually an instructional leader, is working with teachers to coach them on how to be better teachers, is looking at equity within the school, so how are children from disadvantaged backgrounds included within the school, and also this issue of how do school leaders look at results, not necessarily measured by marks, but looking at, this is what we want our school to be and how do we get there and are we on our path to getting there. I'll take another minute if that's okay. Just quickly, I think one of the big challenges that we found as we've looked at schools and the system overall is that we oftentimes lack goals for the system. So we are operating under this meta goal that all children should have a quality education. And I think within schools, you'll have your individual goals. But what we're finding is that there's no pathway to get to these goals. So what are the intermediate goals we need to get to this meta goal of all children in school and learning? And so things like student assessment, school assessment, using data to actually teach, to run your schools, these are things that we think there's a lot of scope to do a lot of work in India. Finally, the last point, which was the takeaway that I'd mentioned in the earlier one, is that we think that all systems that believe they have quality and that are demonstrating quality should link to the ecosystem. So in many of your communities, you'll have private schools that are operating at a very low fee point, which are delivering very marginal levels of education. You'll have government schools which struggle with all the challenges that we know of government schools. And I think it's incumbent upon us, certainly as a foundation, but also upon the schools to really take ownership for education in the community beyond the school and see how you can create public-private partnerships, take on Mumbai, as many of you may know, has passed a public-private partnership policy under which the government is actually inviting private operators into government schools to run these schools for a reimbursement level per child. I think there's a lot we can do around sharing resources informally. Many of you have been working on inclusive education, so as the RTE is now mandated 25% reservation for low-income children, for marginalized children in private schools, are there lessons that can be drawn from the Salesian schools that can then apply to other schools as well? And finally, to really engage in both documenting what you're doing and sharing that, because I think the system itself is in real need of direction and guidance, and the more people with experience like yourselves can share that, the better it'll be. So I'm sorry for going over my time, but thank you and happy to take questions later.